Hi, Paul Bedford here from Retention Guru, and in this clip, and it's a little bit longer than usual, I am speaking about the group of people that are not currently members of health clubs and what we could do to attract them. And this was based on a piece of research that my friend and colleague Dr Melvin Hillsdon conducted on behalf of Fitronics, and I took some of that information and was sharing that at this major UK conference. I hope you enjoy the clip. I hope it's thought-provoking and lets you think about, okay, what do we do to attract those people who are currently not attracted to our businesses? And if you've got any comments or questions, please put them in the box down below. For now, that's it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care. Bye.
Good morning. I'm going to talk this morning about this recycling and retaining customers, clients, whatever. I'm going to tend to call them customers, whether you have members or customers. I'm going to tend to say clubs to mean anything of a physical facility where someone comes in. Otherwise, I'm going to be saying sentences like, in your club, your facility, your studio. It just becomes too long. One of the things I recognize about our industry is I actually think we're really good at attracting customers. We're good at getting people to walk through the door. If you look at the data on the number of people, and I'm going to show you the numbers in just a second, the proportion of the UK population that have already been through the doors of our clubs is just amazing. We currently sit somewhere around 14% penetration, depending upon how you measure that. And there are some issues with that, because some of the issues would be if I'm a member of two clubs, technically I'm counted as two people, or if I leave a club in 1 year and I join another club in the same year, again, I'm two people. But we're sitting somewhere around 14%. And I don't think we have a problem as such with getting people to walk through the door. Now, it would make sense for me to say that because I spend all my time thinking about how do we keep people within our clubs? How do we retain them? How do we keep them exercising? And if you look at the numbers in terms of the people that drop out, it's quite startling that we don't, as an industry, do more to try and hold on to the ones that are actually what I call self-presenting. We're not trying to convince people who aren't interested to walk through the door. We've actually got huge numbers of people who walk through the door and go, I want to do this, and I think you're the people that can help me do it. In 2002, within my client data sets, 8 out of 10 people who walked through the door had never been a member of a club. They'd never been a member of a club. By 2012, which was probably those 10 years was very big boom years for the fitness industry, rapid growth of the number of facilities available, that switched. It was 2 out of 10 hadn't been a member of a club, which meant there were lots of people we were recycling through different facilities. They were joining one, leaving, rejoining, joining another, and so on, and they were going through. Data we've had from our clients when we're talking to them now is it's about 50-50. It's about 5 out of 10 since the pandemic of people walking through the door are saying, I've not been a member of a club before and I need some support. And we need to think about that because we've got this huge opportunity to have people who post-pandemic are saying, my health is more important, my fitness is more important, I want to do something. And in their heads, they've looked at our facilities, our clubs, and said, I think this is the place I can go and do that. And they're walking through the door, and we're happy to sign them up. We're happy to engage them in the process we offer. The challenge I think we've got is we don't often give the support, as much support to the people who are new that we need to. Now, this is a piece of research that's been released recently. It was commissioned by Fitronics, so thank you to them. They got Dr Melvin Hillsdon, who's Associate Professor of Exercise and Physical Activity at Exeter University, and some of you will know of Melvin. Melvin was associated with the industry for a very long time, worked for Living Well, worked for other organisations, now as a full-time academic. They got YouGov to create a representative sample of the UK population. Now, a lot of the research that gets done in the fitness industry isn't done on what's called a representative sample. A representative sample is one where the sample group you have looks like the population you're studying. A lot of the studies we do in the industry, we're studying ourselves, and so we're not fully representative. But what he was able to show in that data was that 14% of people are currently members of clubs. 30% are ex-members. So we've already been able to attract 45% of the UK population at some point to use our facilities. And then 56% have never been members of our clubs. As Hattie says, you know, one of the targets for UK Active and the industry is to add another 5 million. My view on this is, why don't we put a lot of time and effort into the ones who've been not currently members, but are still considering coming back, or holding on to a lot more of those people who joined in the first place. I worked for a long time within charitable organisations where we were commissioned to work with hard-to-reach populations and get them physically active. I can tell you it costs you millions of pounds to get hundreds of people physically active. They're called hard to reach for a reason. Yeah? And there's a large proportion of this 56% that don't even value, they're not currently physically active, and they don't value physical activity. This, I think, is the most startling part for me. Of that 56%, 8% thought being a member of a gym or health club was important. So there's a large proportion of this inactive group that we're looking to target and go after that are currently saying, actually, you're not important in my life. I know anecdotally, and it is purely anecdotally, when the pandemic first kicked in, I was on Zoom calls with friends of mine, and there was about 20 of us on a call, and most of them were more worried about whether Threshers could deliver their wine orders than whether their gym was open. And 2 of them out of 20 actually said, I don't care if gyms never open again. And yet they're members of gyms. So I think we have to readjust our thinking and say, let's really put a lot of time and effort into supporting the people who need the support, who are self-presenting to our clubs. Now, for me, this is a very busy slide. Basically, it's the visit frequency in 4 groups after the first 12 week of membership. The study group is over 1 million. So it's over 1 million people. And we did it in between 2021 and beginning of 2022. So it's a fairly up-to-date sample. And what you can see is in the red block are what we refer to as the high risk. These are people who are visiting less than once per week. So they're only making about 4 visits per month, but they're making less than that. Then you've got the more than 4 and then the more frequent. You can see it on the legend. I'm looking here and it's over there. You can see it on the legend. After just 12 weeks of membership, we've got 74% who are visiting less than 4 times a month. How are we going to encourage people to become more physically active? We want to move that needle so that it goes from red at least into orange or into the yellow segment for them to get some benefits from using us. I think there is an argument to say that, you know, people aren't just using clubs to get their physical activity and fitness. They are using other formats as well. But for us, when we're looking at our businesses, if we want to see growth in our business, we need to encourage more visits. I'm also mindful, though, that if we increase the visit frequency to 3 times a week, which is often the message we put out, most of our facilities wouldn't cope. They wouldn't cope with the extra volume because most of that volume is going to come at the same time. This is the difference in retention over 24-month period. So what you're looking at here is this. Across the bottom is months since joining. On the vertical is that 1 million people, represented as a percentage, so 100% at the top, 0 at the bottom. You can see on this slide that compared to 1 visit a month, 2 visits a month, or 3 visits a month, people who come 4 times a month, 61% of them are still there at the end of the first 12 months, compared to just 23%. Effectively, anything that isn't that green line are almost sleepers. And some of you had very extreme experiences of what sleepers do to your business at the beginning of the pandemic. And if you were carrying lots of sleepers, you were going, oh, well, they're not coming, but they're paying. But once we got into the pandemic, the vast majority of them were cancelling. This is what it looks like to you, though, in terms of length of membership. To people who come less than 4 times a month, or the people who come 4 times a month, on average, stay about 6 months. People who come 1 more visit per month, so compared to people who come 3 times a month, people who come 4 times a month stay nearly 12 months. You get double the length of stay. You improve your retention by 100% in that group. So you're not looking for them to go from 1 visit per week to 3 visits per week. You're looking for them to go from 3 visits per month to 4 visits per month. Many of you in here will be of the mind of, well, they need to come 3 times a week. There'll be a few in here that go, they need to train every day. We've got to start small, particularly with the people that have been and started. We've got to get them coming on a regular basis. You cannot establish a habit until you've established a routine. You can only establish a habit if a behaviour is done at least once per week. So we can't get people into the habit of exercising if they're not doing it once per week. We could try and get them up into this very low risk, but I think initially that would be a challenge. But what I'm going to say to you today is, I think we could easily hit the 5 million that Hattie was just talking about if we just held on to more of the customers that walk through the door at the moment and get them into the habit of exercising once or twice per week. I'm going to leave you with one more thought. I understand that when our industry was growing, it was quite common to do a price presentation based on World Health Organization guidelines, exercise 3 times a week. I can tell you in that million at the moment, there's such a small proportion that come 3 times a week. It makes it very difficult for us to reach out to people like the Department of Health and say, we are here to help you make people healthy, if actually we can't even get them to visit and be active with us. We want them to come more frequently. We only need them to come a bit more than they're currently doing for you to have a more sustainable business. We can work on getting them further up the scale as we go on. The last thing though, rather than saying to people, how many times a week are you going to exercise for and for how long, we need to start saying to people, which days are you going to exercise on and at what time? So we get much more definitive commitment than this vagary of, 3 times a week, about an hour. We need to be much more definitive. Which days, what time? Then we can be more realistic.